Yeah, I know I've wanted to tattoo pretty much my whole life. My mother works for the Smithsonian, and I remember her taking us up to the American History Museum, and apparently I stood in front of this exhibit for a long time, and she took pictures in front of me, and then when I started tattooing, she sent this to me. She was like, I knew that this was something you've always wanted. That's my mom's voice. I knew this was something you've always wanted to do. But yeah, and it happens to be a replica of what a tattoo parlor would have looked like in like the 20s. Oh my gosh, well, I'm wearing a members only jacket, so I was probably about 6, 7 years old. I'm turning 50 this month, January, so.
Mike moved to Gainesville. He's part of that big Virginia migration to Gainesville. I think it was back in like 2002 or 2003. All these people started moving from Virginia and like starting bands. Mike skateboarded, so I kind of knew him a little bit through that. So that's kind of how we ran in the same circles, part of the punk rock scene, skateboarding, all that stuff. I knew he tattooed, and he had his tattoo kit with him one night. And it was one of those late nights, and I'm like, dude, like, give me a tattoo, you know? And he's like, I'll totally give you a tattoo. And he's like, what do you want? And it was late, and you know, we had been having a couple of beers, you know, and I'm like, I want the Miami Dolphins logo on my arm. And so he obliged, and now I have a Miami Dolphins logo on my arm for some reason. I've had it there for about 18 years or something like that. And right after he was done tattooing it, one of our friends named Yuri came over and punched me right in the tattoo, which was awesome.
I might have met him before my husband. I don't know. I don't know if I met who I met first, but we all have like the same group of friends, and we just kind of like became friends. I knew he was a tattooer because all the dudes that we all hung out with all had a Mike Salay tattoo. Like they'd all been tattooed by him. Everybody'd been tattooed by him. You know. But I don't think I got tattooed until 2000. I think it was 2008. I will admit I was one of those hungover friends who would have to call in to cancel a lot. Sorry, Mike. I didn't. Now that I've worked at Anthem before and like I realized what a lame move that was, I've apologized multiple times for that.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to ask that one because I have no idea. Trying to think way back, I'd say it's probably been more than 20 years, maybe, that he's been doing tattoos for me. I get tattoos done so rarely that I it's just hard to remember. I think before Anthem, he was doing tattoos and somebody recommended him because the tattoo parlor came later. Because the first times he was tattooing me, it was not in the studio. You know, it was probably at his house.
Okay, so I've known Mike since like 2012 when I first moved to Gainesville. I met him through a lot of mutual friends and events, and then found out he was a tattoo artist, so put him to work. I've gotten several. I think the first tattoo I got from him was on the back of my arm, a little anchor and some roses. He's good at drawing roses, so he's the guy to go to. And then since then, the leg he's currently working on, he's done most of that. So.
And then my uncle, my mom's brother, he was in the Marines, and he had the military bulldog on his arm, and that was my first exposure to tattooing. And I was just like, whoa, my Uncle Francis has a picture that he drew on his arm that he can't wash off. And it's like, we would like eat dinner, and it's, you know, he's like a big burly dude at the time, and I was like this little kid, so, you know, he had a big fuzzy beard, and I was always like afraid to like look at it, but I would eat dinner and just be like, and he'd go like that to me. So he would always just joke, but I always thought that was the coolest. And then growing up skateboarding, I was pretty much this age, you know, 8 years old, 5th grade, you know, Woodbridge, Virginia. There was this ditch. I remember riding the school bus and seeing these guys skating, and I was like, what are they doing? That is so awesome. And I'd get there and I would just sit down and watch them, because these dudes at the time were probably, you know, teenagers, early 20s. And I'm like, these guys are cool as fuck. I want to do what they're doing, skateboarding, you know. And I'm like, they got these pictures on them too. I didn't know they were called tattoos at the time. I'm like, they got, you know, they're drawing on themselves too. That's awesome. I want to draw this stuff. And it just kind of started there. And then I found magazines and stuff, because I would go and get skateboard magazines, and then there would be like the motorcycle magazine, but a girl on the cover like showing off her tattoo. And then I would look at it, and then now I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, well, this is awesome. You know, this happens. You know, people get this put on permanently.
And then Mike did my right arm sleeve here. He did the whole thing. So So my arm is it's like a Japanese piece. It's a koi fish. I have it going downstream, which is not like the traditional way, but I'm like kind of chill and I like to like head downstream. So that's cool. It's got a bunch of chrysanthemums and other stuff like that on it too. God, this is like, it's been over a decade. I don't know. I'm really bad with time now that I'm older, but probably like over maybe 15 years ago or something. Over a decade.
So the first one we did was my first sleeve. So we did a whale and a squid. I started having kids soon after that. So then I stopped getting tattooed for a while. But then the other ones, he tattooed 2 of my kids so far. I have 3, but we haven't gotten to the 3rd one yet, which was very special because my first kid, he just kind of like came up one day and like, look, I drew a picture of her and drew this really cool to hang up in the house. And I was like, can we tattoo that? And then we tattooed that one. And then my son, I asked him to do another one, draw another one up for him. And then the 3rd one we haven't done yet, and they're like very close. They're really tight. So I was like, you gotta make it a good one for her. So we haven't gotten there yet. But
I've never been one of these people who wants to really cover myself with tattoos. I always thought, you know, like I'm a little bit hesitant. Like I want to get tattoos, but I don't want to rush it. You know, I decided to get one for my daughter and my son, and so my dad and my son are here, and my mom and my daughter are on this side. Mike's done these for my son and my daughter. He's been working on these since they started. Mike worked on this one before I had kids. He probably worked on this one 25 years ago in his room, you know, in his house somewhere. I'm pretty sure that he worked on this one.
My first tattoo was on Brett, who has since passed away, but I did a little sun around his nipple. That absolutely looked horrible. That was my first tattoo. Well, actually, no, my first tattoo was a star on my ankle. He was the second tattoo. But the first tattoo that I ever did on anybody looked really bad. But I literally thought that I was freaking Picasso. I was like, I got this. I'm going to nail it. And that's what I had. You know, at the very beginning, I literally had so much confidence then that I was just like, I was like, I got this. I could do this. But, you know, going back and seeing them like, oh, dear Lord, they're all terrible. So these are some of my first tattoos that I've done whenever I got to Gainesville. I was tattooing in my back room, which is now my son's bedroom. This is a pretty good one. Backwards Virgin Mary on the neck, but yeah, these are all really, really early tattoos when I first got to Gainesville. Still tattooing out of the room. Oh my gosh. I wish I still had that guitar.
I like it because to me, when I've been tattooed by him, I don't like to have someone kind of pressure me a lot. I like someone to kind of talk me through it, make sure that I know what I want. And I mean, I'm not very difficult, but I've also know that some people are very particular, and it's always important. When you see what an artist does, I like for them to put their style into it. That's the whole point. So it's nice to throw, like, what do you want to do? How would you do it? And then let them be creative and do what they're going to do. And then that's how it should work.
I just send him like, hey, what do you think about this? And if he's excited about it, I know it's a good idea. If he's not, then I skip it, you know?
This design he did in 2010, and I was making all the shirts and stuff, but I wanted to branch out and have other artists. So I just said, hey, make something, make whatever you want. And he came up with this, which is so different than anything we had done. Everything we'd done was kind of folksy. And this is obviously very tattoo parlor style, you know, very cool. And then I think it's like a 6-color design, which we hadn't done before either. So we did these and they were super popular. And then we just reprinted them recently, and already we've run out. I mean, we probably reprinted them 2 weeks ago, and we didn't get enough, because they're a popular design. And actually, the actual drawing we have framed in the restaurant of this.
My first year of tattooing, so I remember it was this little place called Tattoo U in Dumfries, Virginia. They're like, we got this spot for you, you know, Zay will teach you how to put some stuff together and tattoo, which was really kind of not a real apprenticeship. I would say more self-taught. He just kind of showed me how to clean tubes, and that was about it. You know, I would go to other tattoo shops and just like watch the guys tattoo and think, okay, this is how you do it. It was very stressful. The building was like a trailer. It was on Route 1 and craziest spot in Virginia. But my first year of tattooing, it's like, I remember, do you want to hear the story, you got to come get tattooed. I was at Tattoo U for probably 2 months before I was just like, it was not a legitimate apprenticeship. It wasn't like how we do things now. Or there I went, Tattoo U, and then just stayed strictly tattooing out of my house. Yeah, I tattooed out of my house in Virginia, came down here, and I had already been doing this now for like 5 years, you know? And so I get down here, and I had somewhat of a portfolio, so I walked around town, and I couldn't get into it. So I was working in some restaurants here in town, still tattooing out of my house, which is now my son's bedroom. And then I remember getting a call one day from the guys over at Body Tech, and they were like, "Hey man, we heard you're doing some tattoos. We could use another tattoo artist over here." So I was like, all right, I went over there and I met up with the guys who run the place and was there for, I don't know, about 7 years probably. And then MySpace came out, and then I saw that Dave was looking for somebody to come over to Anthem, and I came over to Anthem, and the rest is history.
He's a great friend. I consider him family, really. He's very caring and thoughtful, and he listens and like asks questions, and that's important to make you feel comfortable when you're getting tattooed. So I appreciate that.
He will seriously drop anything he's doing and come help you if you need it, no matter what it is. I don't know. Car broke down. House, flooded. I don't know. Plumbing's broken. We don't know what to do, or, he's helped our family. He's just really helped us so much. Anytime we've ever had like any type of crisis or anything like that, and he finds out about it, we don't even have to ask. He's there. Him and his family are there just like that. Like, what do you need? What can we do? Well, let's do this, and don't worry about it. And like, we'll figure it, that's one of my favorite things, is just having a friend like that.
This is a good story. It's kind of like part of Mike and our history, right? And so we were both like big skateboarders our whole life. We grew up. Mike's got a really good invert, by the way, or he used to. He doesn't anymore. My wife and I moved to St. Pete for a little while. They came to visit us in St. Pete, and Mike stopped before they got to our house. Mike stopped at a thrift store, and he found like a 1984 Tony Hawk like deck with Thunder trucks, like these awesome like old school wheels. I forget what the whole setup was, but it was one of the rare Tony Hawk boards, like first Tony Hawk boards, Paul Peralta. And it was a big tank, and he brought it to my house, and he's like, "Dude, Sean, look what I got. I got this like original Tony Hawk board from like 1984 or whatever." He's like, "It's awesome." And we were in my living room. I think I could kickflip on that. And so he's like, "All right," so I put it down and I did a kickflip. I caught it and I landed it and I broke the board in half. And that thing is like worth a lot of money now, but it's not anymore because it's got a big crack down the middle of it. Rodney, come here.
He's like, "You're almost done with the story? Let me just..."
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah, it was a bummer though, man. It was like, I hadn't known Mike for that long too when I broke the board. And I looked at him, we like, as soon as the board cracked, we both looked at each other and made eye contact and didn't say anything for like 10 seconds. And I was like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do now," But that was kind of like my early relationship with Mike, but it didn't matter because he's such a cool dude. He was like very forgiving.
What do I hope this year brings? I don't know. I just hope that more people get tattooed. I mean, every tattooer hopes that. Obviously, I hope I get to do larger tattoos, larger scale tattoos. I would love to do some back pieces. I would love to, because like I love just focusing, getting in there, and just something about this. Just watching the tiny needle being stretched in between my fingers. I love that. Even with painting, it's just like doing small strokes and just watching whatever you're doing come to life. It's fascinating. I love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else except for, I don't know, maybe go back working in restaurants. Just kidding. I just don't like getting stuck in a rut, I guess, because then it's just like I get bored and I'm just like, "Oh, fuck, what are we going to do today? Let's draw a rose and a skull." And, that's cool and all, but to me it gets boring. Came across Guy Atchison, and he's like this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like all organic looking, like that. Whenever you type in trippy shit on YouTube or whatever, his tattoos come up, but it's like moving. honestly, anybody that's doing anything different. I have this motto that I got from Bruce Lee. It's right there, you know, technique is a trap, style is a prison.